Welcome to Stark Raving Social, the podcast for comms pros who want to stay ahead in a world that won't stop changing. Your host is Sherrilynne Starkie, social media strategist, industry pioneer, and trusted advisor to brands navigating the digital landscape. With decades of experience in marketing, PR, and social media, she's here to bring you the insights, strategies, and conversations you need to stay ahead of the curve. From shifting algorithms to AI-driven content, from crisis comms to culture shifts, if it's shaping the future of our industry, you'll hear about it here. This is Stark Raving Social.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Stark Raving Social, the podcast for communications professionals who want to stay ahead in a world that won't stop changing. I'm your host, Sherrilynne Starkie, and today we're talking about the latest wave of frustration with Meta. Once again, calls to boycott Facebook and Instagram are making the rounds. My own network is full of people declaring they're done with Meta, but let's be honest, most quietly return in a few weeks. The reality is, Meta is still the dominant force in digital advertising. For most brands, walking away completely just isn't practical. The reach and cost efficiency of Meta's platforms are too significant to ignore. But there's a real risk here that marketers can't afford to overlook. It's not just about ad performance or whether users leave en masse. It's about reputation. When a platform is under fire, brands that stick around risk being seen as complicit. The erosion of trust can be slow, but over time, it can have real consequences. That's why the smartest approach isn't to abandon ship, it's to stay put, but refine your strategy to protect both results and brand equity. Let's start with ad strategy. Brands that continue to advertise on Meta need to be more precise than ever. That means tightening up ad targeting to ensure every impression counts. There's no room for wasted spend or misplaced messaging. Broad targeting strategies might have worked in the past, but right now, it's about efficiency. Every dollar spent should be reaching the right audience at the right time with the right message. On the organic side, brands need to be careful. Messaging should be neutral, not explicitly supporting or opposing Meta's policies, but simply staying on course. Jumping on trending topics might seem tempting, but it can backfire. Social media has a way of placing your content next to discussions or brands you might not want to be associated with. The best approach: stay steady, stay smart, and don't get pulled into unnecessary debates. And of course, no brand should rely solely on one platform. I tell my clients this all the time. Diversification is key. A recent campaign I worked on for an employer brand started on Meta, but we expanded it to TikTok and Snapchat. That move opened the door to a younger audience, university students and recent graduates, who were far more engaged on those platforms. The campaign saw better awareness, stronger applicant numbers, and a deeper brand connection. The same principle applies here. Brands that only invest in Meta are putting themselves at risk. Own media, your website, blog, email lists, and mobile apps are where long-term security lies. These are assets you control, free from the shifting rules of social platforms. And while Meta is still dominant, other platforms are gaining ground. LinkedIn is a strong option for B2B brands. TikTok and YouTube are growing every day. Even newer players like Blue Sky could provide an edge for brands willing to experiment early. Working with influencers is another way to spread your reach. This is something many brands overlook. If you're concerned about Meta's future, partnering with influencers who have a presence across multiple platforms is a smart move. It keeps your brand visible, even if one platform becomes unstable. Plus, it spreads your risk, ensuring your audience can still engage with you, no matter where they spend their time online. But let's talk about the biggest concern for many brands: reputational risk. The boycott might lose momentum, but negative associations can linger. Brands need to be ready. That means having a plan in place in case their presence on Meta becomes a flashpoint. A neutral, pre-prepared statement can help diffuse backlash before it escalates. And when it comes to online debates, feeding the trolls is never the right move. Hiding inflammatory comments is often the best course of action. For some brands, there might even be an opportunity here. Companies like Patagonia and Ben & Jerry's, known for their strong progressive stances, could lean into the boycott and strengthen loyalty with their core audience. But for most brands, neutrality is the safest bet. Getting involved in the controversy only invites more scrutiny. And finally, data should drive every decision. Monitoring performance metrics across platforms is critical right now. If engagement drops or audience sentiment shifts, brands need to be ready to pivot quickly. That could mean adjusting messaging, tweaking ad placements, or shifting focus to other platforms. The brands that thrive will be the ones that stay agile and adaptable. Ethical brand audits should also be routine. Brands need to regularly review their partnerships, ad placements, and audience expectations. In a market where consumers are increasingly driven by values, companies can't afford to be complacent. Meta isn't going anywhere for now, and abandoning it entirely isn't the answer. But ignoring the dissatisfaction bubbling beneath the surface, that's not an option either. The smartest marketers will take a balanced approach, invest in own media, diversify platforms, prepare for reputational risks, stay agile. That's how brands hedge against fallout and come out stronger when the next digital shakeup inevitably arrives. Thanks for tuning into Stark Raving Social. If this episode gave you something to think about, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Until next time, stay sharp, stay flexible, and keep your brand's reputation ahead of the curve. This is Stark Raving Social, and I'm your host, Sherrilynne Starkie.
That's a wrap on this episode of Stark Raving Social. Thanks for tuning in. If you got value from today's show, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a rating or a review, and please share the show with a friend. Until next time, keep learning, keep adapting, and keep making an impact. This has been Stark Raving Social with Sherrilynne Starkie, the podcast for communications professionals who want to stay ahead in a world that won't stop changing.